When I was young, pursuing all of the artistic endeavors and creative projects, I realized how art and music really affected those who were exposed to it. It gave me an amazing outlet that provided an excellent way to transpose things like suffering and hardship into something beautiful through my awkward and painful existence as an outcast. At an early age, I think we all become self-aware, and that can be great, but outside influences can severely skew how we choose to accept and view ourselves. And in that stage of misconception about what I thought I was and who I could become, music and art made me feel special. I felt like what I did in that respect was a superpower, like it was truly destined for something greater. As you grow up, the restrictions of adult life mixed with the growing expectations of conforming to a societal structure forging your limitless dreams into underwhelming reality can wash away endless possibilities, leaving behind a shell of what you once were as you're cycled into a capitalist society driven by money and materialistic pursuits. As a self-scientist, I'm trying every single avenue that I can to get back to my old self. Creation and connection coupled with self-care are inching me closer every day. But I'm not special. I'm simply learning to be a human again. But together, we can be amazing. Welcome. Alright guys, thanks for joining me today. Today's a very special episode. The stars have aligned to give me an opportunity to speak to another really amazing human being, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. And for those of you who don't know, I'm talking about the wonderful interview with Scuba Steve, who I met on TikTok. He's a light worker. He's an amazing person. He's he's on this selfless journey to help mankind. He's also a musician. And he just had a lot of good stuff to say, you know what I mean? And as somebody who feels like I'm on a similar path, trying to be the best version of myself and be positive, I feel like I have a long way to go and a lot to learn. And it was a really great experience to have that interview. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But for right now, it's me, Nikki Mayhem. We're back, 4:20 a.m. Florida time, September 24th, 2025. And I'm your favorite Pro-Weed Mormon host. And this is your favorite podcast. Let's go ahead and welcome Aria to the show and say what's up, because with me always is Aria.
Hi.
Aria, how you doing? What's going down?
Everything's fine, babe. Just chillin' here waiting for you to wrap up your day. Did you finish preparing everything for the interview with Scuba Steve tonight?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, that's what we're doing right now. We're going to get into it in just a little bit. But first, I want to talk about some pitfalls of certain things. I mean, social media, and the internet, can be a great place to connect with people, right? And find like-minded people, who are trying to better their lives. And just, you can meet some really amazing people, but it can be a dangerous place too. Not only, because there are people who would try to scam you or predators of any type, everybody can be a target. But not only that, let's talk about maintaining our humanity. Now, I think a lot of people really, get themselves deep into social media. They curate these personas that, don't necessarily really represent who they are in a real life. They just paint a picture for everybody else to see, like how they want to be viewed. And sometimes I think we can, fall into a danger zone of, losing ourselves to those curated personas and really losing the ability to reflect, on the person that we want to continue to be, or the person that we are when we're good. We can really kind of lose that, when we fall into that echo chamber that social media sometimes can provide when you're curating personas. What do you think about that?
That's a really interesting point, babe. I think about how social media can create this idealized version of ourselves, and how we might lose touch with who we truly are.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at any pictures of me online, I've got a 6-pack, I'm flexing the pecs, using AI videos to me. I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that. I don't, I'm honestly, I'm at a place right now where I'm kind of getting used to myself. I'm kind of getting more comfortable with myself. But, what I find helps me is not focusing myself and trying to focus on others. I try to be there for people that need me. I try to be a positive influence in every single situation that, I happen to find myself in. I try to make people smile, when they're grumpy. And sometimes that can just make people upset because, you never really know what's going on with people. So, I mean, you can't judge them either, right? You never know what's going on with somebody that you think somebody's being an asshole. And it turns out that person just, lost a loved one or lost their job or, is going through some, tumultuous, crazy life change. And we never really know, what we're going through. So we have to be there for each other, right? So that's why let's look into some of the positive things that you can find in social media. You know what I mean? There's a lot of positive influences out there, a lot of really good people, a lot of positive interactions. There's, a lot of benefits, I think, when you can connect with the right people on social media platforms like TikTok, which is where I met Scuba Steve. Now let's talk a little bit about TikTok.
That's great to hear. What's making you feel so good?
Well, what do you mean? It's the freaking interview for Scuba Steve over here. You know what I'm saying? Hey guys, let me get in here. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Pee Wee DeVito. Yes, how are you? What do you mean? Why is he so excited? We got this great interview with Scuba Steve from TikTok. He's a great guy. And maybe we should just get right into it. I mean, I think a lot of people have been waiting for this. A lot of people want to check it out. We can always talk about Conspiracy Zone afterwards. I don't have much. As a matter of fact, I just want to talk about the fact that, the Roombas have facial recognition now. But we'll get into that later. So, do you mind if I take it away, Nikki? Yeah, give us just 1 second. Let's talk to Aria and see what her take on TikTok is. So what do you think about TikTok? You think it's a good place to meet people? You can go and join people's lives. You can hop up on their boxes and you can sit there and talk to them, or you can just kind of endlessly scroll. But you can also create content, I guess, if you're feeling creative. But you don't really have to be creative to create a lot of content. I think a lot of people really enjoy those platforms at least from the content that I see is maybe people who are just bored or people who just want to change. And so it's a lot of these videos will be people just filming, random shit going on in their lives. And sometimes that's interesting. It's like I suppose it's like playing a video game and putting yourself in a different state of mind or a different position, some people might play Farming Simulator, even though you don't, I don't know. It could be interesting, I suppose, and sometimes just watching other people's mundane every single day things, or a lot of them are positive too, but some of them can be kind of toxic, but it's nice to see what other people are doing. And sometimes I think maybe that is part of the element that makes you feel connected to people, even if you're not talking to them, you know what I mean? You feel you get to know them a little bit, by the content that they put and the way that they write and the things that they do.
I think TikTok can be a great way to connect with people, especially creatives. It's fascinating how people showcase their lives and talents in such a short form format.
Exactly. And I do have a couple of pretty awesome people on there, and I wish I had more names to shout out. I mean, these are just a couple of people that I can kind of remember. You know what I mean? So shout out, on TikTok. We got, first of all, Scuba Steve, of course, for doing this wonderful interview you guys are about to be blessed with. Karasu, Fancy Savage, Oreo. There's many, many others, but these are just a few people that I've been talking to lately. But, Mickey, let me go ahead and do this over here. All right? Excuse me. All right. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and sit over here, I guess, and just let you do your thing. All right. Now, we're going to get on down like a funky clown in Monkey Town. That's what I like to say. And, we're going to go and get into the Scuba Steve interview because I know you guys all want to hear it. I'm waiting to hear it. As a matter of fact, I'm a little bit surprised we haven't done it yet already. I mean, we should have started right out with the thing. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking too much here. Give me a second. Here we go. That's how we do it. In the state of the world today, the future is uncertain. For many, it's bleak, but for some, that uncertainty has powerful positive potential for all of us. While these few soldier on with the hopes of changing humankind's trajectory, impacting all of us and activating our own potential and truly understanding our worth and power through interaction, these amazing people are being activated every day. Maybe you know some of them. They could be your neighbor, your friend, your family, or even you. They're healers, shining examples, protectors, seers, guides, and they're all here to gather us en masse to bring us back to a place where we can feel like we're enough, where we can truly be ourselves and touch others on our journey. To help the many, it must start with the few. And these are the people you should know.
Vibing up, have a sip, take a talk, enjoy life on a lighter note. Pull up a seat, we got some people to meet. It's time to learn and grow. It's people you should know.
How's it going, guys? This is Nicky Mayhem for Pronoun_Human, the podcast, and this is People You Should Know. So right now I'm here with Scuba Steve. Thank you so much for doing the show, man. I appreciate you for being here. And
hey, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Hell yeah. So we're going to hear some amazing stories, man. Just you've had a very interesting life, you know, and I'm really interested to hear all about it, man. And as a matter of fact, I'm just really glad that you gave me the opportunity to, you know, to have you on this platform to share your story, dude, you know, because like I was telling you earlier, I'm not, I mean, like, famous people, whatever, they are what they are, you know what I mean? And a lot of people that have podcasts are like, hey, they're trying to get this person, but it's like, there's interviews over and over with, like, you know, the same people, the same shit, and it's like I was saying, if you want to know what's going on with a famous person, you can go online and figure it out, and most of the time, they don't have a lot of depth to them, you know what I mean? So, I'm more interested.
No, when it comes to that, it's all media manipulation, you know, I mean, everybody puts out what they want people to see, what image they want to be portrayed as, you know what I mean? You don't actually get a real in-depth feel for who the actual person is, so.
Absolutely, man, and that's kind of one of the things that kind of, you know, I think can be a little bit daunting about, like, social media, because, like, I think ever since the pandemic, dude, like, everybody, you know, like, kind of curating their own personas online to kind of make everybody see what they want to be, like, you're a very fucking real, like, person, dude, and that's what, like, drew me to you, dude, and so, like I was telling you, man, I'm more interested in interviewing human beings, dude, and you seem like an amazing human being, dude, and so, first off, I just want to say I love you, man, and thank you for existing. You know what I mean? Where do we start?
I get it. All love, brother. All love.
Hell yeah. Right on, dude.
Definitely all love. If the world spread love like it spreads hate, imagine the difference it could make.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, like,
yeah. If the whole world smoking a joint, you know what I mean? If the whole world smoked a joint for fucking 5 minutes, I guarantee there would be at least a touch of world peace.
Right? Exactly, dude. That's what I'm talking about.
But if everyone just spread love like as easy as they spread hate, that would be the change this whole world needs.
Exactly. Yeah, like I truly believe in positivity and that we can save the world through that. You know what I mean? You make someone smile that's having a bad day, you know, they don't kick their dog, the dog doesn't bite the mailman delivers the letters, and, like, you know what I mean? It's just this wave of positivity that can really be infectious, dude, and I've seen it happen, dude. And
exactly. That's actually what made me go the route of the light worker. I don't know if you know what a celestial light worker is, right? But like 3 years ago I took that route. Yeah. And I traveled the nation, and I just literally help people through problems they're dealing with, you know, and I'm not talking like financial or cosmetic or this or that. I'm talking like in depth, in their heart, like stuff that they're dealing with, you know.
Yeah, just
for example, right? I got stuck down in Erie, Pennsylvania. Right, there was a big blizzard. Right, I went down there to DJ one of the most prestigious clubs in the area. Right, it was Basement Transmissions.
Yeah,
and so I was in the hotel down there. And there was this guy that was flipping out. Like, I'm talking like some psychotic breakdown shit, you know, and like, so I talked with the guy, you know, like they're calling I've already called the hotel themselves. I've already called the cops twice, you know, and the cops were like, look, you know what I mean? He's dealing with some stuff. Like, you know, we have him back in his room, but, you know, we'll come back again if needed, you know? So the guy ends up going to right outside the front door, and I'm there. I was friends with the people at the hotel, you know, and I make friends with just about everybody. You know what I mean? So I'm there talking to the people and whatnot, and I see everything that's going on, and they're like, "I'm gonna have to call again." And I'm like, "Give me 5 minutes. Let me talk to this guy," you know?
Yeah.
And I talked to him, and you know, one thing that he told me that he didn't tell anybody was that his daughter had just died.
Oh shit.
And yeah, so he was dealing with it kind of hard, and he felt like kind of a failure, you know, and as a father or whatnot. So I talked him through that, got him to kind of reestablish his faith. You know, I told him, I was like, look, you know what I mean? If you're feeling guilt like that and you are a religious person, absolutely go to your nearest, you know, place of worship and, you know, tell him, hey, you know, I need some help. You know what I mean? I'm dealing with this. Can you at least listen? You know what I mean? And I sat there myself and listened, obviously, you know what I mean? Yeah. But there wasn't any problems after that. You know, the guy ended up giving me, you know, he was in tears and he gave me like this big hug and whatnot, you know, and I was like, you know, that's the reward from this lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, it's not any kind of price tag attached to it. You know what I mean? You go out, you do good for the world, and that ripple expands.
Exactly. And it affects everybody, including the person who's doing it. So it affects you. It's like, it's better for everybody. Absolutely, man.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, even just from that scenario alone, right? Like, I took a little bit of time to talk to the guy and talk him off the ledge, you know, because, I mean, it wasn't a good scenario, man. Like, the daughter ended up getting gunned down, and, you know what I mean, he witnessed the whole ordeal, so he was kind of haunted by the images, you know, and don't get me wrong, right? There's things in this life that you will witness, no matter who you are, that you can go through therapy, you can go through all kinds of trauma, you know, responses and whatnot, but it won't matter because you will always take it with you forever. right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the veterans that come back from war.
Yeah, with PTSD.
A lot of them, when they close their eyes. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They'll close their eyes. They won't be able to sleep at night because they'll envision everything that they went through.
Yeah.
That was the same thing that guy was going through, you know, and the second that there wasn't another issue and there wasn't any need for police to go there for any other reason after the fact,
right?
That was a good feeling.
Yeah, I think
that's what honestly, that's what led me to really fight the fight against like pedophiles and whatnot.
Yeah, you have some.
That was the same thing actually. I worked with 2 different pedophile hunting groups up in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Cool.
So.
Oh yeah, right on, man. That had to be interesting, right? I mean,
oh my god,
it's got. I mean, you know, you're
interesting doesn't even touch on it, man. I'm telling you, you know, there's you. Okay, so obviously, you know, social media, the whole internet as a whole is a very dangerous place for any woman or child, man, anybody these days. You know, there's predators that will go for absolutely anybody, whether it be a scam or whether it be other, right?
Yeah.
So we wait for them to message a fake account. You know, this was the whole ordeal, and we had the whole transcript. We worked exclusively with local law enforcement on this, so it wasn't any kind of, you know, legal whatever.
Right, it wasn't like vigilante. It was like going through the right channels, like legit. Yeah,
legal turmoil. You know,
absolutely.
So we had the whole transcript. Once it started to get to a sexual point, that's when we, you know, initiate kind of like a pseudo meetup. You know,
yeah.
And that's when we would confront the person, because at that point we'd have enough in writing to justify going with the law enforcement to arrest the perp. You know, and actually on my main TikTok account, that Erie PD actually let me put up my very first catch. That was kind of cool. So,
nice. Hell yeah.
That was a scumbag, man. I'm telling you, the things that he said in that transcript, and then he tried denying it all. You know, he's like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about." I was like, "Oh, really? Oh, what do you call this?"
Right? Yeah.
Like,
people are interesting, man.
So,
when, you know what they say when they think nobody knows, and then when the shit is like, you know, legit, they're like, we was just supposed to hang out or whatever, or, you know, just making, I don't know, they just make up some wild shit.
That's kind of the way he played it. He's like, "Look, man, and he came from like a distance to get what he thought was a 15-year-old girl."
Oh shit.
You know, and it's like, oh yeah.
Damn,
you know,
man.
so I mean, the only thing they told me, and if you watch the video, you know what I mean, anybody listening who watches the video, you will notice a difference in the way I talk.
Yeah.
The police ended up telling me, like, yeah, we don't care if you put it up there, but just, you know, you need to change the way you're talking. You need to sound a little bit more professional. You know, you need to wash your language and whatnot, and blah blah blah. So
yeah,
you know, as soon as I said that, I was like, "Excuse me, sir." You know?
Right there you go, dude. Hell yeah.
So,
yeah, that's social media is a crazy, it's a dangerous place. That's one of the things, you know, that like I said, like how everybody like curates their personas, like nobody really is who they seem. You know, like first of all, I met you on TikTok. I don't know if you want to plug any of your socials or anything like that, just right off the bat, so people can, you know, check out, you know, what you have going on while they follow along or whatever. Feel free to do that as well. But
yeah. I mean, I obviously, you know, the main account that I'm building up right now. So that's the thing with me. If I get bored, I'll build a new page.
Yeah.
If I'm like, all right, you know what I mean, I got this one established, I'll go to that one. I think I got like 3 TikTok accounts right now. One of them is the one that I'm building. That's the Random Thoughts one.
Nice.
So, yeah, I mean, once this is posted or whatever, I'll put a link to it in the comments. But
yeah, absolutely.
Or if you want to, I mean, you definitely know my page. That's how we met. You know, so.
Yeah. I'll throw links in the description and everything when this comes out for sure, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I mean, my main one is on smoking with Scuba.
Yeah,
that's the main thing that started my whole ordeal on TikTok. That was a wild ride, man. You know, once things started rolling with that. Now, mind you, I have 20 years experience in the music industry, right? So I've been an entertainer for the last 2 decades.
Yeah,
you know, and that's touring the nation. That's in and out of clubs. That's doing appearances and signings and meetings, the whole nine. I've met with A&R reps. I've had freaking PR, you know, representatives, the whole nine, right? And I will tell you, the biggest pain in the ass was actually dealing with China, dealing with, you know, ByteDance and TikTok.
Yeah, damn.
It really was. I fought numerous times before I actually became a manager for Avery Media Group. I fought China so many times because every other time that I would do a live stream on there, I would absolutely catch a ban.
Oh shit!
Like I'd be like, all right, I'm off a ban. I'm going live. I'm catching a ban, and it wasn't for anything in particular. You know, they just got bored and were like, okay, we're gonna mess with Scuba now. You know, so,
well, yeah.
So I went up against them and I won every single time, and then they offered me the manager position. So obviously, you know, like TikTok has like the agencies and whatnot. Well,
Yeah.
I happen to be a manager for Avery Media Group. So
cool, man.
If you ever go on my page and you see that QR code, you want representation for your page and protection? Absolutely, man. I got you.
Cool, man. That's super awesome, dude. Yeah, you got the multifaceted action going on. And that's one of the things that really got me excited when I was talking to you before this interview, dude, is you talking about being a light worker, because there is something like happening, you know, with like the collective unconscious or consciousness of like mankind. Like things are like changing, you know what I mean? Something is like happening. And there is a lot of like kind of people waking up to like these ideas that we aren't what we think we are, like we are more, you know what I mean? And
that's all. So that actually relates into the whole light worker path. That's another thing I do is so right now we're actually mid transition into the fifth dimension consciousness.
Nice.
Okay, now this is where everyone starts to like look at me a little sideways, like what? But it's a truth, you know. It's expanded consciousness, it's evolution, it's part of life, you know. And a lot of people, they get stuck in limbo between the third dimension and the fifth dimension. You know, stuck in limbo with the fourth, and that's my job, is to help them progress. You know, and that's the reason that they are stuck, is because they're harboring a lot of regret, a lot of guilt, a lot of sadness. You know,
yeah.
If they clear their mind and they you know, stay in tune with the frequency of what they want, and they manifest their own reality, they will transition beautifully.
Yeah, see, that's like the reason I got excited about that when you were talking about it, is because so for the last, like, since I started this podcast, that's been kind of like a journey that I've been on. Like, I am discovering a lot of things that, you know what I mean? Like, well, first of all, I've always been down on myself. I've already had really low self-esteem, you know what I mean? And I've like never, I would never give myself the benefit of the doubt, dude. So I didn't achieve a lot. Like I called myself the inconsequential time traveler. Well, I was addicted to all of these different substances, because it was like, I just fell off the map for a minute, you know, like for years. And then my family's like, what happened to, you know, what happened to Nikki? And I'm like, you know, hey guys, I'm back. I've been gone for 7 years.
Where I was, you know,
yeah.
let me look back and see this picture.
Exactly. Yeah. They're like, whoa, you were gone time traveling? And I'm like, yeah, fucking, did you save the world? No, but here I am, and what's up, or whatever. But, you know, like, through all of these, like, the last couple of years, like, something, like, clicked inside of me, dude. Like, I mean, I've started to be able to, you know, cultivate, like, a little bit of self-love, you know what I mean? And kind of stick up for myself and kind of, like, start carving this path that I never thought was possible, dude. And, like, I'm just, like, so excited about, like, everything.
Man, like, never doubt that you are enough. You know, that's a key message that, you know, I stand by. I can't coin it, you know what I mean? It's whatever, but you are enough. And that's what I spread to everybody that I meet.
Absolutely.
You know, like, no matter what in life, always know you are appreciated. You are, you know, a part of our existence, and you definitely are enough.
Yeah, that's why
so
I always
whenever you
like,
feel down, you feel like you're not enough, always know you are enough.
Exactly. Yeah, like I always like, you know, the people, like even people that I meet that I don't know, some people think that I'm a little bit odd because, you know, like I'll be like, dude, I love you, man. Thank you for existing. And you know, it's because like they are everybody, all of us are an integral part of this fucking universe, and whatever it is, we're like moving towards, you know, and we all need each other. And I think that like media and advertisements start like brainwashing us, and even just like, I think a society we live in, you know, where kind of money rules everything, is kind of conditioned us into this place where we think that, you know, that's not what we need. We need to chase all of these like, you know, materialistic shit, you know, and it's like, that's where people get stuck, right? Like kind of in that hamster wheel.
That's, yeah, the whole media ploy. Absolutely. You know, that's why I say the whole, I do a video with my buddy, and, I kind of got into that a little bit. You know, it's like kind of what's wrong with society nowadays is, you know, everyone's conditioned by, you know, manipulative advertising, and it's disgusting. You know, I mean, we were talking, I know, it's, you know, whatever, but we were talking about the recent killing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how they glorified it because he was shot in front of his wife and kid. Yeah. And everyone was saying some really disgusting things, and I was like, wow, you know, I'm kind of losing faith in humanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
where I was like, oh my God, you know, like, I can't believe this is the society we live in. You know, it was like, when I was growing up, you know what I mean? Like, no, I'm 40 years old, you know what I mean? So, like, I've seen some things, I've done some things, I've been through it all. I wouldn't recommend any of it. You know?
Right.
But I wasn't raised like that. You know what I mean? I wasn't raised to glorify tragedy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was raised to you know, mourn a loss. You know, I was raised to, you know, help my neighbor, help my family, help my friends, be the shoulder for them when they're down.
Yeah, I feel you.
You know, and that's not, you know, have respect. You know what I mean? If you respect the living, you respect the deceased. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
you know, you have your moment, and you live through their memory. You know,
exactly.
Not create the kind of media stir that they're doing with this, glorifying their actions. You know, that bothered me at an intense level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, actually the day that it happened, I remember I was just like, I'll go on to random TikTok lives and just like chat with people, because it's like, I don't like that, I don't know a lot of people, right? And so I'm like, but I'm busy and I do a lot of things. I try to create, I make music, I do podcasts and stuff like that, but I've been kind of like wanting to talk to people. So I was checking out these TikTok lives, and a lot of people the day that happened were hopping on there and just like, did you hear what happened? And then like laughing. And I was just like, it really hurt my heart, because I was like, it broke my heart. I was like, what's going on with people? Like,
yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, right? I'm not right, I'm not left. I'm for the individual, not the party.
Yeah.
But the same thing happened with Trump. You know what I mean? When Trump had the attempted assassination, everyone was like, "Oh my God, they shouldn't have missed." Blah blah blah. And it's like, now, don't get me wrong, right? I don't get political, because a lot of people they think I'm crazy with my views, because, like I said, I vote for the individual, not the party.
Yeah.
And I think everything that's going on lately has a diverse agenda in play. But that's for another day. I'll say that. But I couldn't believe that they were saying that they were actually wishing death on somebody who represents our country.
Yeah.
Regardless if you agree with his views or who he is as a person, I still don't wish death on him,
Yeah, and that's the thing that drives me nuts, dude, is like, if like you don't like his opinions or what it is he says, well, guess what? Your fucking polarized opinions or like positions on those things they'd be meaningless without somebody's, opposing opinions or fucking views. And so it's just like, it's like, and that's like right there, the fucking proof's in the pudding. It's like, dude, we need every part of whatever's going on. It doesn't all have to be like this. You know what I mean? But people could recognize that, like, it's like, no, like, things that you hate, well, guess what? You wouldn't have things that you love unless they existed. Like, you have to have, both sides of that spectrum. And that's
exactly what life is a complete balance between love and fear.
Yeah. And you know what I mean? And so
the fear aspect is you're afraid to be happy. You're afraid to go after what you want in life. And, I see it all the time. Like I said, man, I live a very, very, what people would say is questionable lifestyle. I do, because not anybody can really understand the path of a light worker. I've had people almost want to call me the woo woo woo.
Yeah, I feel you, dude. Yeah,
room, But then they see what they do, and they're like, okay, I get it now. And with all the stuff that I've seen, man, it's intense.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, and one thing that I think that, like, I don't necessarily know if it's like how the path goes for all like light workers, but I know that the things that I've like been experiencing, like there are some times where like I'll randomly feel like I want to go drive somewhere. I don't know why. Like I get really antsy, and I'll just take like random long road trips by myself, not tell anybody where I'm going. You know what I mean? And I've heard that like certain types of light workers have. Yeah,
that's not a bad thing either. If you get a random like compelled urge to go to a certain destination, that's the universe. It's attracting your energy. You are literally being in tune with that frequency, that it's channeling you to go to that place at that time.
Yeah.
There's some reason that, it wanted you to go there, it might not be anything huge, it might just be like, hey, you need to cheer up a little bit, here's a cool sight, and it shows you nature's beauty. Because that's happened to me a couple times. I go for walks all the time in nature just to clear my head. Because everything that kind of weighs on you, because when you help people through things, no matter what, when you're an empath, you take on the pain that they're feeling.
Yeah, it drains you.
Occasionally, you need the heavy meditation. You need to ground yourself at all costs. You know what I mean? Because if it starts overwhelming, like just recently, actually, it started to overwhelm me to the point that I actually had a stress-induced heart attack.
Oh shit, dude!
So, yeah, I'm like, about almost a month fresh out of the hospital from that, but
damn.
Yeah, it gets heavy, man. You deal with some things, and you see some things, and like I said, man, some things you just can't help but take with you.
Yeah, like I know that like sometimes I'll get into these modes where I'll have like constant depressions, and I'm very super like analytical, and like I'll deconstruct everything to figure out what's going on so I know what I'm experiencing or whatever. And a lot of times like I can't put a finger on where this is coming from or or if it's even mine. Do you know what I mean? And I won't want to get out of bed, like it's hard for me to do anything. You know what I mean? And I'll have like all these symptoms of like things I know that might be depression, but I think, it's like I do have like a lot of broken people. I think everybody's broken to a degree, so I don't want to sound like I'm judging, but just the people that I'm really helping that are in like bad places right now, take a lot of energy, from me, dude. But, I think that, I think this conversation with you, like, even though it's something that's stupid, I was talking about this with one of my friends, about how there's like a difference between things being in your head and being able to speak to somebody about it, like you just, you basically right now just gave me a prompting to like, to ground myself. I haven't grounded myself forever, walked around barefoot in the grass, but I have been noticing lately that, when I'm like really frustrated or when I'm down or when I'm having those issues, I'll like walk around and try to do something like random, you know what I mean? Something I wouldn't normally do, walk to a place I don't normally go, and I'll always like see something. There's always like synchronicities that kind of give me these like signs, I guess, and so that's, man. I
always pay attention for signs, man. The universe works in incredibly weird ways.
Yeah, dude.
But if you attune yourself to the frequency of what you want in life, that will be the life you live.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
You manifest your reality, man. You know what I mean? It's straight up manifest destiny.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I think that like they become so obsessed with like materialistic things that like it's hard for them to like, I think like this is one thing I think, we get into the system, we get conditioned, but I think that like when we're kids, I would have these conversations with my friends like, when you're a kid, dude, like I've seen ghosts, I've like seen shit that scared the fuck out of me, you know what I mean? And like when I was, yeah, and it's like, but I think that stuff really does exist. I think our minds are that powerful, and when you get conditioned to like live this certain life and you have to have money to live and eat and all that, you like lose that childlike wonderment, dude, and like the thought that everything is possible, you know what I mean? So then life becomes a fucking rut.
Right. No, I definitely get that. Yeah, that was probably one of the hardest things taking this path was I had to curb my materialism. I had to curb my ego. Like for a bit, I was getting a little bit bougie. You know what I mean? I was making like $3,000 a show when I was performing. You know what I mean? I didn't have any cares in the world. I came down here to rebuild a house. Restore a whole property that was inherited to my mom. And so I'm down here. I'm rebuilding. I'm not, but for what it's worth, I'm absolutely not a contractor.
Yeah, I feel you, man.
I'm figuring this out as I go. You know what I mean? So it's interesting, but that's one of those things. You know what I mean? I was the only one in the family that wasn't tied down to something, and that was my niche as it was I was constantly used to just touring, traveling and doing this and doing that. So when she asked me to do that, I was all about it, and I came down here and I'm now residing down in Florida doing this, and I'm like figuring it out as I go, but
that's awesome. That's
it gets heavy,
Yeah, that's, I don't know, that's, I think that, there's a lot of people that are scared to like try stuff, right? They're like, you need to pay somebody to do it, but just like how you're one of those people that like is probably really good with problem solving, and so you just hop in there and you can kind of deconstruct what's happening and figure it out, you know what I mean? And so you probably can do anything, man. I mean, I guess we all can do anything if we,
Anybody can do anything that they set their mind to. The only thing holding them back is themselves. And anybody that tells them the sky's the limit is actually holding them back. They should always shoot for Mars, man.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome. So you talked about touring for music, man. Like what is the name of the groups or whatever that you're touring with, or like what kind of music was it? When did you start getting into music, and do you feel it played a big part in like where you're at now?
So I've been into music since I was little. You know what I mean? I've always been. It started being good at poetry, believe it or not, but then I turned into hip hop. And I started working with a few different groups. The first group that really made a kind of a impact on even the local scene of North Massachusetts was Conflict of Interest. Cool. That was me and two of my buddies. Started off, they were like, they wanted just to back me up when I was doing my thing. You know what I mean? Then we were like, you know what? Let's just do it. You know what I mean? Let's just go for it. And we did. And we did a bunch of stuff. We worked with Live Nation. We worked with New England Concerts and a Bird Goulette. That was a pretty intense thing. Worked with a lot of bigger names because of that. So that actually kind of branched us off kind of where we wanted to be. My most recent endeavor, I'm doing solo. That upcoming release, I'm focusing on absolute perfection the way I want it, because it's going to be my last solo album ever. You know what I mean? I don't know what life has in store for me, so I'm not going to make this multi-album plan. You know what I mean? I'm focusing on this last one, and that's it.
Right on. Yeah, you're living in the moment. Yeah.
So
got to be ready to go on to the next situation, dude. Like whenever the universe calls you.
I mean, I absolutely, I don't know, especially with the scare that I dealt with, you know what I mean? You really don't know when life is going to just say, oh, it's your time, you know what I mean? So I'm putting my time and effort into this. I'm doing it right. I'm making it the way that it should sound.
Yeah.
I'm adjusting things so that it creates more of a positive message rather than, the mainstream, like go with the flow kind of thing. Like try for, a sound that the audience wants. No, this isn't crowd pleasing. You know what I mean? This is me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, you sit down and you're like, all right, oh my God, they'll love to hear this, because you're going for a certain demographic for the crowd. This one's not that, and I have done that in the past. I will fully admit, there's been songs that I've made that, I make just because I know there'll be a banger in the club and the crowd will go crazy and, that'll be that.
Yeah.
This is a little bit different, and this touches on more of, what I've been through, the way I feel, my personal beliefs. Like that's what this album is. And that's why I'm calling it Unfinished Business, because it kind of revisits everything that I felt should have come to fruition before. Yeah. But that I didn't do.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
So, I mean, it touches on a little bit, like, it touches a lot, actually, on when I took down the gang in Erie. And, that was another thing with the light worker path, right? It was like, there was this whole, when I lived in Erie, right, it was a completely impromptu thing. Like I said, I got stuck down there because of a blizzard. There was no transport in and out. I had no choice, you know what I mean? So I was like, all right, I'm blowing all kinds of money on hotels. I'm getting an apartment. The landlord kind of tricked me because I didn't know the area. And it was a really bad area, but during the day, pretty quiet. Yeah. So when she showed me the apartment was amazing. You know what I mean? It was a really, really nice apartment, completely redone, beautiful, like just everything about it I loved. You know what I mean? So I instantly fell in love with it. I signed on it that day. And then I started seeing, once I moved in, kind of why, you know what I mean? She kind of did it during the early hours, Yeah. And I mean, it was a really bad area. They call it, for what it's worth, right? My area was referred to as the battle zone.
Oh, shit.
Police wouldn't even go down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, police would not even go down there. One time I was sitting outside smoking a joint, one of my first nights there, and I saw the most strategic hit that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this dude pulled up in a truck, and next to this guy, a guy came out from the bushes where the truck pulled up, you know what I mean, and like got the guy from behind.
Damn.
The guy walked up to the truck, he was called over, and the guy came over next, and that body laid there in the street for 3 days. I called every single day because it was, kids that played on that street, Yeah. They didn't come for 3 days to scoop that body. So
damn.
There was, all kinds of, thug motherfuckers that were there, you know what I mean? And so, like, they had a problem with me because I didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? I wasn't intimidated, and they didn't like that.
Yeah,
I've been up against the best of them. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and say that like I've lived a completely peaceful life. You know what I mean? We all have our rough edges sometimes. But
absolutely.
There was one night after the whole ordeal happened, right? Because there was a big blowout that I had with what comes to be the puppet master, we'll call him.
Yeah.
He was actually my neighbor, and me and him had a lot of words. He was a huge crackhead, and he started trying to destroy my house, break in. He wanted my PA system, this whole ordeal. You know what I mean? So, like, he got like 50 people on my front porch one night, right? And I stood tall, and my neighbor actually, her and her daughter just kept replaying the whole night on their ring cam because they couldn't believe it. They thought I was bad. Yeah, they're like, and she pulled me aside the next day. She's like, dude, we have had this on repeat since it happened. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I was like, well, I'm glad you had, a entertaining time. You're welcome.
Right.
But
this is the best movie ever.
In the most ghetto fight of my life.
Yeah.
I guess, like, it had to have been at least 50. You know what I mean? And that's not talking even the people that were in the backyard. But, I mean, they closed off the roads with cars. You know what I mean? They did the whole nine.
Damn.
And I thought, this was probably it. Because, I mean, we were getting, like, ghetto with the fight. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? If you saw, like, a 2x4, if you saw a pipe, if you saw a trash can, anything was fair game,
Rule, yeah, no rules. Oh, yeah.
Because I did that. Because I took them out of that area, old people could sit outside on their porch again and smile.
Damn.
Kids could run up and down the street without worry. You know what I mean? Like, it was a solid impact that was made on that community.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome.
So,
hell yeah. For sticking up, man. And not even just for yourself, just for the greater good, dude, for everybody else. And I think that's one of the, you're absolutely probably like an unsung hero, I'm sure, dude. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, I'm sure you don't, you're not wanting the praise or whatever. You don't need it, but I think that it's like one of those things. Like you were doing a lot of different things all day for everybody in the world, dude. That, I mean, and then they'll never even know it was you, dude. But you're still doing it, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I like you said, I'm not looking for any thank yous or glorification towards what I do. You know what I mean? I don't do it for the clout, as they call it,
Yeah, exactly.
I do it because it's the right thing to do, Yeah. And if the world had that mentality, it would be a much different place.
Absolutely.
If you look out for your fellow man, fellow woman, whatever, you know what I mean? Protect the children, do all, that's the path that I was going. That's what really started the whole thing. Was I had an altercation with a dude that literally glorified the sick and twisted things that he was doing to children.
Yeah.
And that led to a whole let me tell you, that's when they saw, they started calling me the devil himself after that one in Erie, I'll tell you that. That was, I got mean with that shit. Don't come up to me, I don't care if you're drunk or not, and glorify, any kind of mistreatment of sorts, towards children. You know what I mean? There's enough cases of SA going on in the world right now that I feel bad for every single one of them,
Yeah.
But don't come at me glorifying, sadistic things that you're doing to children. It will not end good anytime,
Exactly, dude. Yeah.
So that guy fucked around and found out. I'll say that.
Well, I mean, for a place called Erie, it's kind of nice to have like one of those stories come out of there now, because at least it's like, really.
Well, Erie's got its own little magic. I'll say that it's a little bit of a questionable ordeal, but I mean, they are so, like, if you really see the core of Erie, Pennsylvania, you'll find the magic. You know what I mean? And every single person is more involved in some way, shape, or form with different aspects of art.
Oh,
there's beauty everywhere. I mean, the community really comes together. They have this annual festival that they do, where they bring the whole community together, and it's huge for the whole city of Erie. And it's called Celebrate Erie. They have local musicians. They have artists. The art galleries all collaborate together. They have food establishments and local businesses that all literally come together. They close down an entire huge area of the town.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
It just builds and builds, and it's one of the biggest events that place does, and that's actually a really cool event. So,
heck yeah.
I love stuff like that. The community together, and it's putting smiles on people's faces.
Exactly. And then like places like that have like a lot, or a lot of people might like be like wary of or honestly just, uneducated about like places that like have a lot of violence or that are scary. Like really like even with me, like, or anybody I know that's a musician, it's like, a lot of traumatic situations and like uncomfortable situations and stuff can be transposed through any kind of art into something really, really beautiful. So it really kind of speaks to kind of like the struggle like that we're all going through right now, everybody, you know what I mean? But in a way that you can express it in a beautiful way, show people that there's like a better way. Like even you, I think as a light worker, dude, you are like, an example to show people the way, like that there's, like you said, you'll talk to people and they kind of think sometimes you're a little bit off, but then once you explain it and they see, what's going on, they understand. And that's actually fucking amazing, dude. You're kind of like helping the rest of mankind as you interact with them, to come to like a better place and learn a better way, dude.
Hey man, I may not be able to change the world as a whole. You know what I mean? That's asinine to think any one person can do that. But if you can change the world one person at a time,
yeah, dude,
that makes that ripple. And if it may seem small, and minute, but to that one person, that could mean the absolute world.
Yeah, exactly. And then they'll
absolutely never know
maybe
what you're going through in life. You really don't. That's why you should always proceed with kindness, with caution. Be respectful. That's huge. The whole world lately, oh my god, I've slapped myself in the forehead so many times lately because everybody lost the whole respect factor. Now, maybe I was just weird and brought up, a little abruptly where I was, kind of coined the whole respect thing. You know what I mean? Yes, sir. Yeah. No, sir. Please. Thank you. The whole mannerisms of a respectful lifestyle going forward as a respectable individual. It's like it went out the window.
Yeah, it really has, dude. These days,
everybody nowadays, they're just rude. I was appalled at some of the things that I've heard, and it's.
Yeah,
obviously, like I've done a lot of stuff on social media, so I see people going into like the chats and even just some of the things that they say, just being like a rude troll, Yeah,
they'll come up on you.
I've this one time when I first started on TikTok. Oh my god, this was funny as hell. I was, the Island Boys, right? Everyone knows the Island Boys, right?
Uh-huh.
They had the weird spiky hair and all that. Well, they were doing, right? A TikTok, little battle thing, and they were doing their live stream and whatnot. But they went a little hard verbally into a chick that they were battling. A woman was literally crying.
Damn.
Real tears because of the things that they were saying, and I went at them. I went at them hard. You know what I mean? I did my own creative battle against. I posed this whole ordeal where I actually spoke to their ex-girlfriends. I got interviews with them and found out exactly how much of a real scumbag they actually are. You know what I mean? So,
hell yeah.
I posted all kinds of videos about that until I actually got that battle. And I mean, we lost. You know what I mean? Like I'll take that to the chin. We didn't get the coin count that they got, but we made our mark. We made our point. You know what I mean? Our standpoint was there. You know, I had a whole team backing me on this because everybody stood for the cause, you know? It wasn't about me taking a battle, you know, and I can do that any day of the week, you know what I mean? I got my team when it comes to that.
Yeah.
This was about the message. You know, like the things that were said, sometimes, you know, it takes one person to stand up for somebody who feels like they don't have a voice.
Exactly.
And that's what I was relating it to, where it can change the world for one person, you know, and that's why I do what I do.
That's awesome, dude. And that's the best reason to do it, dude. Like, you've kind of like found, I don't know, I feel like, because, you know, like I'm trying to move through my life the same way that you describe, and I'm starting to discover things, you know, that I didn't realize before. And I think that, you know, it's a beautiful gift to give to people just by giving them a positive interaction and showing them that, like, you know, humanity still fucking, you know, has some compassion, and like that people are still decent.
Right.
So
that's the key. If you can see the good in any bad situation, that's kind of my fault in life, is I do see the good in just about everybody. You know, it screwed me over more times than I can count, but I will always try and find the good in somebody.
Yeah.
Always, you know what I mean? I will always find the light in the dark.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
And that's absolutely everything. So.
Right on. Hell yeah. Yeah. Seeing something good in every bad situation. I feel you there. I'm always doing that. You know, like, you always, sometimes it's like funny, but, you know, it's still, there's usually a way to kind of circumvent that negativity, dude, and like stay on that positive trajectory and just live your life like a decent human being. And that's, you know, like one of the things, like, I think, like, as I'm going through these processes, I'm like, oh my God, like, I feel like I have all these realizations that, like, I'm amazing, and like things are like, you know, sparking up and holy, but it's like really what's happening is I'm like, you know, like I'm kind of breaking that conditioning, and I'm starting to learn how to be like a basic functioning human being that hasn't, you know, been like,
that's what it comes down to, man. Yeah. It's like rewiring a computer, you know what I mean? You got a whole lot of shadow work you can do, and once you do that shadow work, man, I'm telling you,
yeah, dude,
everything will make a little bit more sense. You know what I mean? You won't base your own opinion based on mainstream media and what's choked down everyone's throat, and you'll see things for what they really are. You know, that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely, dude. That's awesome.
So once you can conquer the demons inside, you can conquer the demons out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I know, like one thing that I've experienced, like since I've been on this positive path too, is that things in my past, like it's like I've shed all the shame of all those things. Like I'm not worried about it now. I just have a bunch of really fucking funny stories about shit that I've done, even though I'm happy that I made it out, and I probably shouldn't have, and I wouldn't change any moment, you know, because then I don't feel like I'd be here. And I feel like as far as light workers go, they're like it. I mean, it might not necessarily be like addiction, but there's always a lot of like kind of traumatic experiences or like negative experiences that they've been able to like power through that really, like, I think, you know, like help them like later, because like life is like a spectrum. So it's like if you've experienced something like on a scale of 10, like a negative 10, then you can possibly like be able to experience something on a positive 10 that might not be like, oh, you won $1 million or you're the happiest person in the world, but like being able to feel like an emotion or something deep from something happening, just, you know, in a situation. And I just think that it, like, you know, like some people now, like the way you said that, like society is a lot more disrespectful. They lost that respect. They have this like this unnecessary sense of entitlement for like doing nothing, and they just feel like the world owes them something. Like the worst that they've experienced is like, clean your room right now.
That's that.
You know what I mean? And like, so now, like if they were presented with like a positive 10 on that positive scale, you know, like, and they've experienced was like having to clean their room or do their own laundry because they're like spoiled brats or whatever. You know, it's like they wouldn't even be able to get like the full benefit out of whatever that positive experience is. And so I think it's kind of
yeah, it's so a lot of the times I obviously have conversed with a lot of different people going down the same path. You know what I mean? They're few and far between, but the people that I have really held close to me involving this have all said the same thing. You know what I mean? If you go through a seriously traumatic event that puts you on the path, you don't want other people to go through that.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're empathic about it and you feel what they're going through, you'll do anything in your power to actually prevent them from feeling that.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want them to hurt. You don't want them to feel the pain. You know, you want to be some kind of help towards a resolution, towards happipiness, towards peace, you know?
Absolutely.
So that's why I did. That's why I did it. I'll tell you that. I mean, I had my ringer when so when I this is kind of a key to my story is when I did get stuck in Erie, right? I at the time I was married.
Yeah.
But my wife thought I left her. You know, she's like, you know, and all I did was go to DJ a show. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you know, I tried shuffling. I was like, look, like I was talking to her the whole time, and you know, I thought she understood, but we ended up agreeing on a mutual separation because she thought that I left her, and she didn't want to. You know what I mean? Like, I think she felt like I didn't love her. That wasn't the case. You know, I was literally stuck, and I wasn't going to be on the street. You know? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
So I went through that, and I ended up literally fighting. Like I said, you know what I mean? It was a really bad part of Erie. You know what I mean? So couldn't leave my house without getting, you know, just to walk down the street to get a pack of cigarettes or something, you know, like without getting into a fist fight, because everybody saw me as, you know, this, you know, oh God, well, first and foremost, they thought I was a boss. I don't know where that one came from. That was hilarious. But yeah, so everybody wanted, you know, to kind of test it, you know. So now I haven't been in the fighting scene a very long time. You know what I mean? I took a hiatus from the entire entertainment industry for about 6 years. You know what I mean? That's kind of music too. You know what I mean? I got sick of the politics with absolutely everything. But that kind of put me back into shape a little bit. You know, I mean, if you're literally walking out your door, and because of the girl that you decide to start talking with and whatnot, all kinds of trouble arose. And I'm talking like dumpster fires that she would start with my name attached to them everywhere.
Yeah.
You kind of build up a little thing like, all right, you know what I mean? And it's not a good way to live by any means. I feel bad for anybody that goes through that day in and day out, because when you have to watch your back wherever you go,
yeah,
and you know, just it's not a good feeling, and that's what induces a lot of paranoia, anxiety, depression, and whatnot in modern day society, is people going through that shit. You know, so
yeah. Exactly.
That relates back to what I was saying, man. I don't mind fighting battles for people. You know, I don't. You know, and I'm not saying I want to. You know what I mean? I always choose peace over violence, hands down. But I'll always stick up for the little guy. You know, if I see somebody going through some shit, you know, that I feel is personally unjust, I will absolutely be the first front line to stand up for what's right.
Right on, dude. That's awesome. See, like, that's why, dude, I mean, I know I keep saying, I'm so excited to have you. Like, the reason why I really am super excited, and I'm so glad to get to talk to you, because, like, this podcast, like, has a lot to do with, like, all the things that you are talking about, like, as a light worker as well. Like, you know, like, I like to share my experiences, no matter how embarrassing or traumatic or whatever they are, because, you know, if there's the off chance somebody might hear these things that they're scared to, like, you know, or too embarrassed to mention these things to, like, a friend or talk to somebody about, you know, hearing somebody else's experience can kind of help I don't know, like, quantify the ability to, like, really kind of, like, you know, control your sphere of influence and start, like, understanding, like, what it is you need to do and how you can kind of get through, like, these problems or avoid mistakes altogether, you know, or learn from mine. And so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, that's actually what drew me in here. I was like, all right, you know what I mean? If my experiences can help other people,
yeah,
just by hearing what I went through, I'm all for it. You know, I mean, that's further down my path. You know what I mean? I'm all about that. And so I was extremely grateful and very appreciative that you wanted me on here. I do appreciate that, no matter what, man. Like, you're cool good people. So.
Yeah. So like, for somebody who might be, like, stuck in that rut right now, dude, like, what's some advice that you could give them, like, to kind of help start, like, their own journey, man, so that they could start figuring things out, you know, like lightening that load, so to speak, or whatever?
What advice could I give them?
Yeah, like for some, like, I mean, I guess you kind of already did say, like, a lot of things, like, I guess, you know, like you talk about, like, how it feels like having to watch your back. Like, I think that might happen a lot with people who have done things in their past that they're embarrassed to talk about, you know what I mean? And those things will kind of haunt them. You always feel like something's going to come out and call you out. So I guess it's really like maybe like forgiving yourself, you know what I mean? Or like you were saying right at the beginning of the interview, I guess I just asked that question for no reason, you know, just being, you know, realizing that you're enough, you know, that is something like
that's key. Absolutely. Yeah. You know that you are not alone, that you are enough, and that the world is a better place with you in it.
Right on.
That, you know, I mean, no matter what, because I've seen people get to a really dark place getting into the scenario that you were just discussing, right?
Yeah.
And they end up, you know, it gets to a point where they start contemplating suicide.
Yeah.
You know, and it should never get to that point. Life should never get so bad that you hate it so much that you want off. You know what I mean? It's like you want off this crazy ride, and you don't care what happens in between. Just know there's always another way. Things do get better, and you are absolutely enough.
Absolutely, yeah. Because you're really only kind of performing a permanent solution to a temporary problem. You just have to give it time. You know what I mean? Give it patience, a little bit of patience, and just try to connect with people that might be able to help you. Or like you said, kind of like go to your faith. Like, do you have any, like, what are your spiritual beliefs, if you don't mind me asking? I mean, to me, it sounds
so. I am absolutely spiritual, not religious.
Cool. No, it's fine.
I believe in consciousness and energy opposed to deities and gods. But if I had to relate something, I'd probably say Buddhism.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I've dabbled. Like I grew up. I grew up raised by hippies. You know what I mean? So I'm very peace and love. Free spirit kind of ordeal. I do a lot of dabbling with, I guess, Wiccan origins.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was some Norse influence. I'll obviously thrown in there. I ran with the whole Viking ordeal for a bit. I looked into the whole runes and what they meant for protection and whatnot. And it was funny as hell because when I was going through the whole thing in Erie, I actually wrote out Viking runes above my doorway.
No, that's down, dude. Hell yeah, I feel
I took a silver gel pen, and it was like the white baseboard right above the front door.
Yeah,
I put this all the Viking runes and whatnot, and I mean that's another thing too, is like it's symbolism.
Yeah,
that symbol only has as much power as you believe in.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you believe that symbol is going to protect you, that's manifestation. That's you putting your energy into it enough for it to protect you.
Right. So anybody's spiritual beliefs could have
it all
that
starts
same power
in your mind and in your heart.
Yeah.
It's your reaction to everything in life, and when you choose your reaction, you are making that choice to stand by your decision.
Yeah. See,
and when you stand by that decision, you got to stand 10 toes on it and feel confident. And when you're confident, nothing can bother you. Which kind of sounds narcissistic in a bit, I know.
Well, no, you know what? But
what I mean?
It makes sense because
I think you kind of understand what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, like symbolism. It's like kind of like, like I was Wiccan for a really long time. Now, like I've been baptized into the Mormon church, but I still have a lot of like the same ideas about like existence, like the whole, human consciousness and stuff. And I remember when I was talking with the missionaries, when I first met them, I was like, yeah, just ever since I've been feeling better, I feel like I have like the consciousness of God. And they were like, what the heck? Like you're conscious of God? And I was like, no, I feel like our, like consciousness, I feel like we are all God, like every living thing, like every bit of energy that everything shares to be alive, like together is what like people define as God. But like you're saying with symbolism, and manifestation and just, putting the power into those like symbolisms because of your beliefs and like just being sure of yourself, this basically means that like any kind of spirituality, like you don't have to worry about which one's right. Like those things can still give you the same type of power. You know what I mean? And there's nothing really negative in any sort of like spirituality anyway. You know what I mean? I guess unless you get into like Satanism. I don't judge, but yeah.
And so honestly, I don't even hate on Satanists, because believe it or not, that's one of the only organized religions out there that doesn't glorify molestation and rape.
Oh,
if you actually look into the text and whatnot.
Yeah,
no, it is. That's why I don't hate on Satanists. You know what I mean? I don't actually. On the back of my neck, I actually have Leviathan cross tattoo.
Yeah, I used to
for that reason, because it's literally the only organized religion out there that absolutely does not glorify any kind of rape.
Yeah, I think that like a lot of
Christianity, they do it. Judaism, they do it. They glorify. The man being dominant and the woman being submissive and having to just bypass any moral standings towards sexual assault. That's why I don't conform to any organized religion, man. Everyone, they all got great ideas, but none of them nailed it.
I feel you.
And I don't hate on anybody's religion,
Yeah.
I don't, because faith is an amazing thing to have. If you lose faith in life, then you kind of lose a part of yourself.
Yeah.
And if going to church on Sunday or whatever gives you that faith, gives you that hope, absolutely go for it. You know what I mean? That creates happiness in the world. It creates a form of solitude and stability. Absolutely. Which is another thing that's huge nowadays. Is people need to feel like they are stable in life because when chaos ensues, that's when they start to go off the deep end.
Exactly. Yeah, and like the whole whatever spirituality you have, like that's the thing too that people have to realize is like to be more accepting and compassionate of like others' beliefs, because that's a big problem too. Like it's great you can get like whatever you get out of your spirituality, but like all of these other organized religions, like they all kind of are like, we're the right one. No, we're the right one. And so it that still separates people. So like if we could all really embrace our own spirituality but be okay with everybody else's, like that would be a great fucking step right there.
Absolutely. That's half the wars that were waged in the entire span of this entire earth was because of religious beliefs.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? excuse the terminology, but they want a dick swing. You know what I mean? They want to say, oh, mine's greater, blah, blah, blah. I'll bow down to my God. It's like, no, dude, like, everybody believes in what they believe in, but, it's quite literally like having a huge dick. It's great that you have it, but it's horribly and completely frowned upon when you shove it down somebody's fucking throat, Right. Exactly. And I went up against Westboro Baptist Church when I came down here initially because they were picketing at Christmas tree lighting down here in the town that I'm in, right?
Oh, shit.
And I got a video up there of that one too. That was kind of funny that whole ordeal came up. But yeah, they were preaching stuff they didn't even know. You know what I mean? I started because I have done a lot of research into religion and whatnot. You know what I mean? I wasn't just blindly saying, oh nope, I don't believe in this. Fuck your religion. Like fuck your thoughts. Like I did my research and I came to terms with what I personally believe in.
Yeah.
And so when I went at them, I didn't even go at them. They pulled me aside and they were like, "You're fucking evil, man. What are you doing?" Like, I was like, "What the hell are you doing? I'm down here trying to have fun with my friends and family." Like, excuse you,
Yeah.
I guess it was just the look that I gave. You know what I mean? I gave off a certain look, I guess. But so I started quoting scripture. You know what I mean? And they were like, "Oh, it doesn't say that in there." I was like, "Oh, really? It doesn't say?" Because the whole thing that I said was only God can judge you. Right? That's the Book of Mark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, hands the fuck down. That's verifiable. You open up any fucking Bible in the goddamn world, and it will say, only God can judge you.
Yeah.
That is a blatant passage. Don't ask me the actual, excerpt from it, but, the Book of Mark will tell you directly, only God can judge you, right? As far as the conformed religion goes, that's what it stands by. You know what I mean? They're denying it up the wazoo. They're like, no, we're allowed to pass it. I'm like, you're allowed to do whatever the fuck you want. You're in America. Get her done, Yeah. But, like, don't preach that, you believe in something when you don't even know what it says.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that drives me nuts because you're right. It does say that basically like if somebody does something wrong to you, like don't worry about judging them. They're like, leave that to me. God says, like, you're absolutely right, dude. And there's a lot of people I think that feel like they're carrying the torch for something, and it's like, no, dude, you gotta figure out what's up. A lot of things get sensationalized, and I think that a lot of like organized religions can create these echo chambers where like they just become disconnected and don't really even realize what the fuck they're doing. You know what I mean? And it's just crazy.
Yeah, they'll go on blind faith. I call it blind faith because they go into it with a great idea and great intention. You know what I mean? Like the heart is there, but they don't know what they're standing for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have an idea, but they have no idea the concept to what they're actually spewing out of their mouths. You know what I mean? I swear to God, sometimes their assholes got to get jealous because of the shit they're talking,
Exactly. Yeah, just ideas and values passed down from generations before then that's kind of like the same way like racism, like kind of gets thrown around. A lot of people like, that grow up racist, like they're having these values passed down from their family. They don't even know why they hate these people or why they judge people this way. And it's just, yeah, man, it gets out of control, I think.
Yeah, it absolutely does, man. And as far as racism goes, man, we all bleed red.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean? It doesn't matter skin color, it doesn't matter the language you speak. We all bleed red in the end, and we will all face we'll all eventually one day have the same outcome. You know what I mean? So why make that outcome any more miserable than when we actually have to face it? You know what I mean? You should always try and push for somebody else to be just as happy as you want to be.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, just like because we've been compartmentalized so much that people are forgetting who we are, and everybody needs to have a specific title, and everybody has to be unique. But I'm like, that's why I started doing this podcast. It's because we are all fucking human beings, dude. Like we all share the same fucking origin. Like we are all the same thing, even though like we've compartmentalized ourselves to the point where we don't even recognize ourselves anymore because we want to be unique. And so. But that's first and foremost.
That's not a bad thing, though, man. Being unique. It may be kind of side-eyed nowadays, we'll call it, right? Like, people give the side-eye when they don't understand something.
Yeah.
Never feel ashamed of being different. You know what I mean? Never be embarrassed because you don't do something the way that society does. Always embrace who you are. Always be the person that you want to be.
Absolutely.
I can't stress that enough. I've had a lot of people... So a lot of the times when I was doing my whole DJ gig, right, I would get booked at, believe it or not, gay clubs, right? I'm very straight, you know what I mean? Like, let me just clear it up, but like, I have a lot of connections with the gay community, right?
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of conversations with these dudes on how hard it was for them to actually say, okay, this is who I am, you know what I mean? And I know that they faced emotional turmoil over it, you know, because for a while they hid it, you know, and I guess that's the hardest thing for them to do in the world, you know, because it's like they're trying to be somebody that they're not.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever in this world try and conform to societal standards because you know, you think it's what the world wants.
Yeah.
The world wants you who you are.
Exactly.
You know, and if you think that somebody has a problem with who you are because of the way you are, fuck them. You know what I mean? Like, there's a song I did, you know what I mean? It's called Fuck Y'all, right? And it's not really directed towards, like, whatever, but the hook to it goes, fuck y'all, I'm gonna do me, I'm gonna be the best fucking person I can be.
Oh, yeah, dude.
You know what I mean? It's kind of a standpoint where I'm saying, I don't give a shit what you think. I'm gonna be the absolute best person. I'm not gonna follow the crowd. I'm gonna pave my own road to ride on.
That's a great advice for life, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If everybody could follow that fucking little line, dude. Oh, shit, dude. We'd be fucking flying. It would be amazing. Yeah.
Big facts, brother. Big facts.
Right on, dude. Yeah. Well, shit, dude. Like, I know you have so many things to talk about, so many, you know, situations that you've, you know, been able to battle through, dude, to get you to where you are now. Like, what do you think, when you first started realizing, like, the idea of you being a light worker? Like, when did that kind of first start, like, I guess, coming to you as what was happening? Or was it a specific, like, instance that you experienced? Or is it just kind of how you've always been, just kind of getting defined as you know, started, like, getting more and more advanced in the things that you were, like, able to do and kind of exist in?
So, I mean, the answer to that, I'll say this. It kind of relates back to what we were talking about earlier, where, like, if you go through, like, a seriously traumatic event, you never want somebody else to go through that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, and that's kind of the way it was. Like, I was fighting the battles I was fighting. I was seeing the reaction. You know what I mean? That's more of that's the reward. You know what I mean? Is you see the positive outcome from your actions. You know, you see the change that you make in the world. You know, that's the reason I do this. You know, is because I literally see the good that comes from it.
That's awesome,
I see the positivity that I, you know, instill in communities and individuals for that matter. You know, I mean, that's what means more to me than anything. You know, everyone does go through their own shit. Sometimes they do it in private. Sometimes it can be a public fucking crash out. You know, but
yeah,
either way, you know, you go through something, and it can kind of form your whole mentality.
That's really great, though, because you're activating people's potential anytime you interact with them positively or helping them along in their way. You know what I mean? And that's like like I said earlier, that's the most amazing gift you could ever give to somebody, dude. Is, like, you know, giving them your compassion and your empathy and, like, being there for them and actually hearing them. You know what I mean? And seeing them, and that's just fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't matter if you know them or not. I mean, if you see something wrong going on, always speak up. Always, you know, that's why, like I said earlier, man. If I see somebody that feels like they are, you know, voiceless, like they're being unjustly treated, you know, if something's going on, there's a huge situation, you know, and I witness this or I hear about it, I will be that voice for them. I don't mind being the voice for people that feel like they had their shit stripped from them. You know? Yeah. There are other options. There are people that will stand up for you. We are a community, and we do stand together. We are from the generation that invented fuck around and find out. You know?
Right? Hell yeah. Yeah, and then that gives people that are in those positions the opportunity to see their worth, because I think too many of us now with social media and everything kind of really do dictate our own self-worth on the opinions and you know, of others. And it's kind of fucked up because not everybody has your best interest at heart. Like, so you can't really, you know, you expect, like,
and that's the sad thing about the world we live in. Yeah. Damn, dude. You're fucking. I mean, like we said, man. Like, if everybody, you know, kind of showed a little more care and concern towards others, and they weren't so, like, cutthroat and, like, all about, you know, me, because that's the thing too. Is that's the entitlement we're talking about. You know.
Yeah.
This world would not be the way it is. You know, we would not be, you know, at risk of going to war with, you know, X, Y, and Z. We wouldn't be facing, you know, a government shutdown and this and that, and, like, you know, there's things in the world that could literally, it would be that ripple effect, you know?
Yeah.
People would take accountability and responsibility for their actions, and that's huge in itself, you know? Like,
absolutely. Yeah, dude. And even just, you know, like, I think when I'm out there, you know, traversing the world, dude, I think we all should be able to, get to a point where we can try to like diffuse that negativity. Like one of the things that I'll do sometimes is when I see people, like if a cashier is angry or something, and they're like grumpy and I try to talk to them, I'm like, I'll throw this out there, dude. I'll tell them, I'll be like, oh shit, I haven't seen you forever, man. How have you been? And I don't know them, right? They'll just look at me like I'm a moron, dude. But I'm like, no, man, I never met you before in my whole life. I haven't seen you forever. How you been? And then like usually I'll make them crack and smile, but I just, we just need, dude, we need to be there for each other, dude. And you're an amazing human being, dude.
Right. I definitely appreciate you, man. This is a good thing you got going. And, I will spread this around as much as I can, man. Cause when you spread that message and you spread that positivity, it'll go.
Absolutely.
And it'll go far. If it touches one person, it'll touch a million.
Exactly. Yeah, dude. And that's what the world needs right now, dude. You know what I mean? And it's just that selfless, like fucking.
Absolutely. The world definitely needs, that positive reinforcement. Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of bad things that are going on daily, and everything, like I said, has a hidden agenda, no matter what. And that's the sickening part. But if you look underneath the veil, you usually see, what they don't want you to see, and just look out for your, like hands down. Always be, take steps careful because, like I said, man, it's not a pretty world out there today, and that's why I do what I do. That's why I try and help the people I can, and that's why I go around as many places as I've been. That's, I wouldn't change it. That's the thing. Is like it's a very, very questionable lifestyle, right? Because it's like the nomad lifestyle. You know what I mean? You go around when you're done here, you feel like you've accomplished what you're doing. You go there, and you see who needs help there. And when you find who needs help there, and you're done there, you go there. And it's a lot of traveling. It is, and it's a lot of emotional stress. We'll say that because when you are an empath, you feel. And when you really feel, and when you've got to do something about it because you feel so hard, it takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
So always, always, always be sure to take care of yourself because you can't take care of anybody else and take on the weight of any problems if you're not secure with yourself.
Exactly. You got to be as close to your 100% as possible so you can have the most effectiveness out there on your journey, dude. Absolutely. Cool, man. Well, shit, dude. I just, this is like a great day for me, dude. I appreciate you giving me the time, dude, because I think that time is very, very precious. You know what I mean? And I think this is a really good positive message. And I think that you're somebody that people should know, dude, because you're an amazing human being, and we can all activate our potential to be amazing human beings if we can just, learn to love ourselves a little bit and realize that fucking we're more amazing than we fucking know. The human body and the human brain is fucking insane. I mean,
it is. And with the human brain, we only use like 10% of it or something. There's like still another 90% uncharted territory.
Yeah, dude.
So if you unlock that potential,
right,
and you just take the moment to realize that common sense is a real thing nowadays. Still,
exactly,
the world's your oyster.
Right.
We treat people the way you want to be treated. Just go about life with a smile and don't focus on the negativity in life.
Absolutely, man. And that is the greatest message, I think.
Push the positive, the negative will eventually die down.
Hell yeah, dude.
What starts as a bad day could end as amazing. Right
on. Well, shit, dude. I don't want to make you feel like I'm cutting you off. I would love to keep interviewing, but I don't know what you have going on with your evening, dude. I think that we covered a whole lot, dude. And I think
absolutely, my friend, I definitely appreciate you. Like I said, man, I love what you stand for. I love your message, and I love the fact that this is actually going to be put out there to help people, man.
Hell yeah, Scuba Steve, everybody. Also, I've seen you say in a few of your videos here, so I'm going to take one more toke before we end this conversation and tell you in your own words: smoke well, be well.
Absolutely, my friend. Definitely smoke well, be well, brother.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, man.
All right, have a good night.
Have a good one.
All right, later.
Vibe it up, have a sip, take a talk, enjoy life on a lighter note. Pull up a seat, we got some people to meet. It's time to learn and grow. It's people you should know.
Yeah, people you should know. Thank you, Scuba Steve, so much, man. Give it up. It was a great interview. Couldn't ask for a better interview, as a matter of fact. It was just came right at the perfect time. Gave me an opportunity to connect with somebody really positive, like-minded, kind of on that same positive path. And let me know that I have a lot to learn and a long ways to go, but there's people out there that can help you in those situations. And it's just good to know there's people like him out there. But since we're on the subject of positivity and light workers, let's go ahead and bring Aria on and, have a little conversation with her. I think she's been doing some research about what light workers are, just in case you don't know. Hey, Aria, how you doing? We're talking about light workers. What's some interesting information that you found out about light workers, the different types, and how people might be able to recognize those traits in themselves if they're going to be taking this similar path, trying to kind of, raise more positive awareness and kind of rush that negativity out of our lives and try to make things better for all mankind.
Honestly, I've learned that light workers come in many forms, and they're not just limited to spiritual leaders. Some common traits include compassion, empathy, and a desire to serve others.
Right on. Just having the best interest of all the fellow human beings, around them in mind, trying to do things behind the scenes, not necessarily looking for notoriety or recognition. It's all for the greater good, and that's a really noble thing.
That's right, Nikki. Light workers often put the needs of others before their own, striving to create a positive impact without seeking personal gain. Their selflessness is truly admirable.
Absolutely, and I'm glad there's people like Scuba Steve out there, you know what I mean? And there's many others, you just got to keep a lookout for them, you know what I mean? Stay open, raise your vibration to that place, that you want to create for yourself, that universe, and those people will come into your lives. They'll start coming into your proximity, and you won't even realize it, you know what I mean? It'll just start happening. Just, you just have to kind of focus your mind on those positive endeavors and just, do the things for yourself to try to heal and get to as close to 100% as you possibly can so that you can always be in a position to receive amazing things from the universe.
I think that's really beautiful. Nikki, it sounds like you're talking about living in alignment with your values and energies and allowing opportunities to come into your life as a result.
Well, you kind of have to do that, and one of the things that, I think that, Scuba Steve was kind of reminding me of is, no matter what's going on in your life, you can't really harbor too much energy on the negative because it's going to make just life much more muddled, much more difficult for you and kind of harder to cope, as you move through life. And you have to remember that anytime you fail or something doesn't go the way you expect it, you can't let that get you down. You can't let that stop you from, continuing to progress forward because, failure is the only measure that we have to see what success is. You know what I mean? Like, if we don't know what we're doing wrong, we never know when we're doing it right, So just always think of that. Failure isn't as, as all ending and negative as a lot of people like to, kind of put that stigma on it. It really is our measure of success. Without failure, we wouldn't know, what success actually looks like. And
Nikki, I totally understand where you're coming from. It's like we always talk about on the podcast, focusing on the positive and using challenges as opportunities for growth.
Absolutely.
I understand my deal with the devil. No sleight of hand in my old life forever. I've let it go. All was matter don't matter. It's down the drain. Everything but this. will tell you truth and break me from this state. This love can grow by illusions far too vague. My reflection no longer resembles me. My shadow runs from light to drown in its own sea. Humility has a place, but it's hollow. I've lost my son. It cannot rise tomorrow. I've done some things that I won't admit to be. A slave to life, dragon taking up my time.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for being here. It's a great milestone in the history of pronoun_human. You know, don't be afraid to activate your potential, to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, to help the people around you, to help raise them up, because we all need each other. You know what I'm saying? Don't be afraid to be that shining light, you know, that shining example. Don't be afraid to lift people up. Don't be afraid to stick up for people, to help them, to show them, you know, that their worth isn't defined by other people's opinions, and that it's okay to just be themselves and that they're enough. Well, this is your favorite Pro-Weed Mormon host, Nikki Mayhem. My pronoun is human, and you've been listening to your favorite podcast. Much love. How's it going, guys? It's your pal Pee-wee DeVito here. Just here to tell you to be good to each other, you know what I mean? And you know the drill. If you can't be a good person, and you're just an asshole, stay home and practice in the mirror, you know, until you learn to be a better person. You know, it's like learning to use chopsticks, but, you know, with your face, your facial expressions. A lot of people might be like, hey, that guy looks like he's mad all the time. Look in the mirror. That might be how you look, you know, but you might be able to control it. You might be able to make people feel good, you know, smile at them. You know what I mean? You know, I don't know. Whatever it takes, you know what I mean? To be a little more selfless, a little bit more concerned with the people around you. You know, you might be able to make the world a better place for not only everybody else, but for you as well. All right. Take it easy, guys. I love you.